I wasn't going to do this video. I was just going to kind of ignore the comment, honestly. The whole thing kind of serves as I felt like would be a good catalyst to talk about some kind of greater things. But I'll start with kind of my relationship with Lucas from T.REX. Well, I guess he's no longer with T.REX, so I guess it's just Lucas. Me and Lucas are not friends. He's not somebody I would consider a friend. I pause to even say we're associates. We're kind of just nothing. This episode of the Colion Noir podcast is brought to you by Vetter Holsters. All right. So, welcome to another episode of the Colion Noir podcast. This is going to be a solo podcast today. I want to talk about this whole Lucas T.REX Arms situation. I was on Instagram the other day. And for those of you who don't know, like my main outlet, YouTube is my main outlet where I put out videos. But in terms of I never really looked at YouTube as like social media. It was kind of like a platform on the internet, which would make it social media. Anyway, but in my mind, social media was always kind of like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. The social media I use the most is Instagram. It's where I communicate the most outside of YouTube. So like the level of engagement that I have there is on par with the engagement that I have that I have on YouTube. So I was kind of going through the comment section on Instagram, and somebody asked me about the Lucas Botkin. I can't. You know who I'm talking about. They asked me about it. They wanted to know what my thoughts were. Now, I'll be honest. I don't really do much in the way of engaging in the gun community drama. That's not kind of really my thing. My life is stressful enough as it is, and so I try to not add any more stress than I need to have. That said, I'm also part of the community, so I'm still going to be aware of things that are going on in the community. And so, though I didn't really kind of follow it closely, I was aware of it and I paid attention to it to a degree. And from what I can understand, he left this company. I believe there were some issues going on with the partners in the company, his brothers, some issues with his wife, them not liking his wife, but somebody sending inappropriate pictures to his wife, so forth and so on. And I wasn't going to do this video. I was just going to kind of ignore the comment, honestly. But I figured the whole Lucas Botkin, I can't remember his last name. The whole thing kind of serves as I felt like would be a good catalyst to talk about some kind of greater things. But I'll start with kind of my relationship with Lucas from T.REX. Well, I guess he's no longer with T.REX, so I guess it's just Lucas, so to speak. Here, I have a issue with symmetry. Like my brain just goes crazy, so I gotta focus. All right. And for those of you who are just listening to this in audio, I'm basically shifting so I center a frame in the video. Me and Lucas are not friends. He's not somebody I would consider a friend. I pause to even say we're associates. We're kind of just nothing. We have had interactions in the past, and they have not been good. They haven't been bad. They just haven't been good. Back when I was doing what I was doing with the NRA, everybody had some type of perspective or opinion about me and my affiliation with the NRA. I was an easy target. I understood that, so it wasn't something that I took personal. But sometimes I did take it personal because I think some of the critiques were unnecessary. That said, there were a few times where Lucas took opportunities to kind of take shots at me. And I'm not going to go into the extreme details of that because I don't really think they're necessary here. Actually, I guess I could. I think so part of the reason, like when you associate yourself with a bigger organization within the space that you're in. So I'm in 2A advocacy space, and the big dog in the 2A advocacy space was the NRA. So for me, aligning myself with them, or basically being the unofficial spokesperson, I was the frontward facing person in the organization. Nobody knew anybody else at the NRA for the most part, except maybe Wayne LaPierre. But all of the top dog execs, all this stuff, nobody knew who the fuck they were. They were invisible ghosts as far as I'm concerned, because nobody knew who they were. But for me, I was the frontward facing aspect of the NRA during that 5-year time period. And I'll do a whole nother video talking about my time with the NRA and my experiences there. But during that time period, I guess rightfully so, when they would make a decision on certain things and some people didn't like them or people didn't like the way they were handling certain things, that I would definitely get the brunt of those attacks, because by and large, like I said, I was the front, me and Dana Lash, we were the frontward facing aspect of the NRA during that time period. So I got a lot of fucking shit from people anytime the NRA did something that people didn't really like. And I get it, because it's like, who else are you going to lash out at except for the people who are essentially the spokesperson for this organization? That's kind of your job. You're kind of the whipping boy. You take all of the lashes, and then you also get the praise when the praise comes. So I've always grown up with the mindset, you take the good with the bad. That said, there was a time period where Lucas was highly critical of the NRA, and he was making posts about it too. But he made very specific and personal posts about me with regard to, all right, so I've got to give a quick shout out to Vetter Holsters. They're now sponsoring the podcast. I've been using their light tuck critques inside the waistband holster, and what I really like is how adjustable it is. You can tweak the ride height and cant to get it exactly how you want. Plus, they've got holsters for over 450 gun models in 75 different colors, so you can pretty much find whatever you need. But here's the thing that really sets them apart: their customer service. I've heard so many stories about how they've gone above and beyond to make sure you're happy with your holster. And with a lifetime warranty and a 30-day money-back guarantee, it's clear they stand behind their products. If you're in the market for a great holster, check them out at betterholsters.com. I guess what he perceived to be my perspective and stance when it came to issues regarding the NRA, and he didn't like them. And so he kind of like would kind of throw little jabs and kind of call me out about shit that I didn't think was necessarily anything to call me out on, because they were nothing. But that's neither here nor there. So during that time period, was not a big fan of Lucas from that perspective. Like Jordan in like the final dance, like I kind of took that personal. And I don't take a lot of things personal, but I took that personal because it was so unnecessary. However, so when it comes to like when I'm saying all of this so that you get an honest perspective about where I'm coming from when I start talking about Lucas, this whole situation, where I end up going with this video or this podcast, so to speak. I'm not going to say I didn't like Lucas, but he was kind of annoying. There was a self-righteousness about the way he communicates that I'm just not personally, I've never really been a fan of on a personal level. But like I said, it's not that I hated him or didn't like him. I was kind of largely apathetic to him. There was even one time where I think I invited him to come on to have a conversation with me. I can't remember exactly what it was about. That fell through. I'm not saying I offered for him to come on and then he just disregarded it, or he refused. I can't remember. It just kind of naturally fell through. It just never happened. I mean, it could have been me for all I know. I probably just didn't follow through with it. That said, the boy can shoot. Now, I know there's some controversy that some people have with respect to Lucas in terms of whether or not he's speeding up his videos or not. And maybe that is the case, maybe it's not. I've heard both sides. I get that may be proven, I don't know. But I do know one thing: the boy can shoot. And I have to give him his props for that, and I have massive respect for him in terms of his ability to shoot. He actually gets to shoot a lot more than I would like to be able to shoot. My love of guns is really shooting. I love guns, I do, but I love shooting them more, if that makes sense. So he is a great shooter. I think somebody even asked me if if I was going to have somebody like on my squad of sorts and some type of shit to hit the fan type situation, I said it would be one of the people would be Lucas, because he's a great shooter, and not factoring in the whole military side of things, right? So for me, I kind of had this kind of contrasting kind of opinion about him. You know, like there's some things about him that I could care less about and would personally not rather have to deal with. Then there are other aspects, but I still had a lot of respect for what he has been able to do in terms of developing his skill set and his skill level when it comes to shooting. And also even with respect to his platform, there are things that he says that I think are a little bit much, but there's not a lot that I disagree with him on in some of the things that he says as well. I think Lucas is in many ways the exact same as me, but very different. And what I mean by that is this. I don't have a military background. I don't have a law enforcement background. I'm just a regular fucking dude that likes guns. I like to shoot, and I support the Second Amendment to its umpteenth degree, like to in its highest form. And Lucas is the same way. I think like Lucas has gotten a lot of shit from people because they feel like he's kind of like a military poser. Like he's running around with kit and he's out here shooting and shit and moving around like a robot. And, you know, people are critiquing him like, yo, like you think you're a soldier, you think you're military shit, badass, whatever. I never got that from him. And I may be wrong, and I'm pretty sure people in the comment section, if I'm wrong and people have some type of feeling about him, or he said something to make it seem like he was kind of posturing about some military service that he may or may not have done. I don't know. I've always gotten the impression from Lucas that Lucas was essentially just like me, just a regular guy who loved guns, who loved to shoot, and loved to shoot so much that he self-taught himself to shoot to get to a level of proficiency that was incredibly fucking impressive, and that a lot of people wanted to see and enjoyed. Oddly enough, as much as he would kind of get on my nerves sometimes, I still watched his videos. I still follow him to this day. I always thought his cinematography is done really well. I enjoyed watching him shoot. I enjoyed watching him maneuver firearms. It was, I'm not afraid to admit that. But I saw some of the people who kind of give him shit about, you know, where he stems from, like, you know, and he probably leaned into it a little much, maybe, and to the chagrin of people who are in the military. But I have to say that he represents and he in a lot of ways embodies what the Second Amendment is actually about, more so than some military guys. And I know that's going to sound crazy, but hear me out. I think within the gun space, we lean very heavy on the military side of things. And I have a fuck ton of respect for people in the military. Like, on another level, I have a shit ton of friends who are in the military. Shit ton of people who support me are in the military. But the Second Amendment is not about the military. It never was about the military. The Second Amendment was about regular people coming together with guns and being able to fight off what they believe to be tyranny. So when I see Lucas go out there and he's donning kit and he's out there shooting all these guns, training in a way that seems a little weird to people who see him as just a civilian, I totally get it. Because what else are we supposed to do as civilians if we have this thing called the Second Amendment and it's designed so that the citizenry can come together with their guns and be well trained and well armed? What the fuck else are we supposed to be doing other than shooting, doing drills, and learning how to be proficient at what we do? Like I said, I get it. Some of the self-righteous banter on his part is annoying, but in a lot of ways, but he represents a part of what that Second Amendment is about. I represent another aspect of it, but it lives under the same umbrella. He's more on the training, shooting side of it. I'm more on the advocacy side of it with a lot of crossover in other aspects. I train quite a bit compared to most people and most content creators in this space also. I kind of look at myself as kind of like the Bo Jackson of the 2A space in a lot of ways. I just kind of do a little bit of everything in it. And I think sometimes we kind of forget that the Second Amendment isn't about the military. It's not even about law enforcement. It's interesting to me whenever I get this a lot when I'm flying, but when I'm flying and I'm checking a firearm, sometimes, I get a lot of times where the agent's like, so, I'm saying, hey, I have a gun. I want to declare my gun. And they ask me, they're like, well, are you military? And I'm like, no. And they're like, are you law enforcement? And I'm like, no. Then they're like, what are you? I'm like, I'm just a regular dude. Like, there's nothing, like, I'm just me. I'm just a guy that likes guns. And then when people learn about my firearm enthusiasm, they ask the same things. They were like, hey, are you prior military? Are you prior law enforcement? Are you in law enforcement? So forth and so on. I'm like, no, just a regular dude who likes to shoot. I like guns and I support the Second Amendment. That's just me. And it makes perfect sense in my mind, but I think a lot of the propaganda from the anti-2A side has created this idea and this perspective that people aren't, like, if you do anything with firearms, it has to be under the guise of the military or under the guise of law enforcement. And that's just not the case. I don't think we need to hold ourselves to a lower standard comparatively simply because we're citizens. And by no means and by no stretch of the imagination am I saying that we are on the same level as the military. I'm not even suggesting it. I'm not even alluding to it. I'm not even breathing it. What I'm saying is, in many ways, Lucas represents what the Second Amendment is supposed to be about. Regular ass people who get out there, shoot, and train with their firearms. And same thing as me and everybody else who's in the 2A space, who is a 2A advocate and who makes content in the 2A space. It's the same thing. And I think everybody has their place. He does what he does. I do what I do. Other people do what they do. Grant does what he does. Brandon Herrera does what he does. Even Donut does what they do. Like, all of these people, Mike from Guns and Gears, Guns and Gadgets, I'm mixing that up, it's Mr. Guns and Gear. Like, we all kind of have our lane, even though there's a lot of crossover, but we all represent an aspect within the 2A space. And so when I look at Lucas and what he does, I really do believe it's well presented. It espouses what the Second Amendment is all about as citizens who train with their guns. And I wish more people could do that. Unfortunately, it's not easy. We don't have a lot of the, like, going out and shooting and training like that isn't an easy thing to do. I lucked up in that I created this platform for myself, so I have access to do a lot of this stuff, and a lot of people don't. And I think a lot of people can learn from some of the things that he does from a video perspective, some of the training that he does, and so forth and so on. I mean, I even think he actually trains people in the military to shoot sometimes. And I think sometimes people forget that. Like, a lot of people think that military guys automatically are like the best shooters in the world. That's not the case at all. These guys aren't. Like, the military is very multifaceted. Like, they are a conglomerate of abilities that come together to execute within the theater of war. And they don't necessarily have the time and to put towards just becoming outstanding shooters. A lot of them just become good enough at shooting. But what they do well is kill. They have the ability to kill well, because being able to kill isn't simply just me being a fucking ninja with my gun, right? And that's the thing. Like, Lucas puts in rep after rep after rep after rep after rep to learn these movements. Now, it's not necessarily, and it goes both ways. It cuts both ways. So Lucas may be this awesome guy with a gun. You put him in a war zone, and he might crumble. He might be shit. because he doesn't understand tactics. But he has a skill set from a shooting ability. It's no different than, say, Terran Tactical. Terran Tactical is a great competition shooter. Jared Mitchell can shoot his ass off. Doesn't mean that you're gonna put him in a situation in war and he's gonna be able to handle himself. Because again, that's a whole nother skill set. But this is why I approach the Second Amendment like I do when I say it has nothing to do with the military. It is about the people. It's about us being able to position ourselves so that if our military does become tyrannical, we can put up a good fight against it. And whatever Lucas has going on with respect to his business, like I never really bought like the T.REX stuff. Like I don't really have an opinion on it yet because I'd never really used any of it. That said, I can tell visually and just looking at it, it's very much something that was designed from the perspective of a regular person or citizen using it. On a tactical level, right? It's definitely increased. It's not just a regular person who just kind of just likes to stick a Ruger LCP in his pocket and kind of go about his day. It's definitely I like to call it citizen tactical. Essentially, is what it is. He's citizen tactical. I'm citizen tactical. I don't really wear a lot of the stuff. Like Peter's always trying to get me to like do videos with like plate carriers and shit like that. And I think plate carriers are cool. I got one sitting right here in front of me. I just don't like doing it. And I think maybe on a subconscious level, I think a lot of it comes from a level of insecurity where I know I don't have a military background and I know I don't have a law enforcement background. And so I kind of retreat away from the super tactical gear side of things. But I don't think that's right. I don't think I should be doing that because like I said before, all the shit is the same. The guns are the same, the equipment the same. They're all going to be beneficial to us if we ever needed to use them for what the Second Amendment was written for us to do, so to speak, with respect to combating tyranny, right? But you know, I like I said, I don't have really an opinion on Lucas other than what I've just told you. I like personally. Like I said, he's not a friend. I wouldn't call him an acquaintance, but he is definitely somebody that I think is needed in the space. He rubs people the wrong way quite a bit. I can tell you that, and I can see why. But I still think he's necessary because I think he speaks to a segment of the gun community that relates to him. That take training exceedingly seriously. Like they really take it seriously, and as they should. And some people don't. A lot of people in the space don't take the whole training and shooting side that serious, and I think that's okay too. Like you don't have to be citizen tactical to be a part of the gun community. Like it's not a requirement. It's not a prerequisite. You don't even have to really shoot to be part of the gun community. You just need to be a supporter of the Second Amendment, right? And in many ways, like I said, you know, how I talked about how the Second Amendment has nothing to do with the military. But a lot of the people who are in the military, when they get out of it, they become citizens. So essentially, it becomes kind of all the same thing. Like it kind of just creates this kind of almost symbiotic relationship with respect to the citizens and the military in that regard. If at the time came where the government became tyrannical and people in the military got orders that goes against the Second Amendment and the Constitution, those who refuse to enact those orders are now no longer in the military. They would be citizens at that point. So it's a very fluid thing. And I like the diversity of perspective and approach when it comes to the gun community, at least the online content creator side of the gun community. So for me, when I see what happened with him, I don't like seeing people going through shit. Like I'm not one to celebrate when bad shit happens to people, even people I don't really care for, because I know at any given point that could be me. So in a weird way, it's almost selfish because there's nothing special about me that prevents bad things from happening to me. So when I see someone going through shit and having to deal with the difficulties, I actually kind of I hope they make it through. I hope they come out on the better side of it. And I know that when it comes to business, when you start talking about money and money gets involved, it can get really, really goofy. People get really goofy. I myself have dealt with people who have stabbed me in the back, who I thought were my friends. I've dealt with people who I've helped or tried to help, tried to kind of let them leverage my platform only to get shit on behind closed doors, telling people shit that they don't know they're coming back and telling me. So that's just kind of how life goes. And unfortunately, you are kind of on your own. And I'm kind of talking to Lucas. In the sense of what I understand, what you have going on, and that whole situation, you unfortunately have to watch out for everyone around you, even your wife, even your business partners. I'm not saying you can't trust them. What I'm saying is, at any given point, people can violate your trust, even the people closest to you. And I'm loyal to a fault. So even though I'm sitting here telling you, oh, you can't trust this person, you can't trust, but I have people around me and who are even people in my employ who I consider friends or maybe even brothers. And I know that there may come a time where they may betray me in some way or another. And I just kind of accepted the consequences that may come with that. But at the same time, I wish him the best. I think he needs to kind of find his own voice with respect to everything that's going on around him, and not let too many people. It's weird because you can't have too many people in your ear, but you also can't have too few. And it's a balancing act. And like extremes are always easy. You can do the extreme. It's like, nah, I don't let anybody tell me anything. Or I got too many people telling me shit. You kind of have to create this balance of having just enough people that you trust to help you make decisions. And I think he'll be fine. Personally, I think he's established a platform for himself that is autonomous. It's going to continue with him because he is the brand of that. Now, as far as T.REX and that company goes, I think they'll largely be fine too. People forget. Like, I've been reading these comments all over the place. People are like, "Oh, they're done. They're finished. They're never." And that's kind of not how business works, especially not in the age of the internet. There are always going to be people who come across. Who's going to come across the company and the products that they make, especially if they continue with marketing and pushing stuff forward. They may lose a segment of the audience and they may see a drop in sales, but I don't think they're done. I think personally, like I said, I think Lucas would be fine. I honestly think T.REX would be fine. The company itself. I'm not going to get into the weeds about who did what to who and so forth and so on, but largely because I don't know. Like I said, I have a cursory understanding of what happened, kind of like a 30,000-foot level view of it. But I do think they'll both be fine. I think T.REX is going to take a hit, and then they're going to have to kind of bring themselves back. Like I said, and which is kind of, it's kind of the gift of the internet, right? You have unbridled access to a lot of people now, and people who may not even know, like 5-10 years from now, they're not even going to know what happened with this whole Lucas situation. People might not even know that he was ever a part of T.REX, except for the people in the community. I think sometimes when we're in the community, we kind of follow things too closely. We think, oh, well, we're so ingrained with everything that's going on in our community, we forget that the gun community is really small. It's comparatively, right? Outside of the gun community, it's very, very, very small. We don't have a huge market share in a lot of industry space. So outside of that, there are going to be people who don't follow anything that goes on in the online gun community space, and they'll continue to buy stuff from T.REX. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying that just is what it is. But I also think T.REX Lucas will be fine too. He'll probably create something else on top of his platform and grow it vertically and continue on and be just fine. I didn't really have a goal with what I wanted to say in terms of this whole thing. I just felt like I kind of wanted to talk about it because I just kind of felt like I wanted to talk about it. And that's what this kind of podcast is for me, at least these kind of individual podcasts. If I don't have a guest, I'm kind of really just ranting about shit that's just kind of on my mind. And I know for me that I've been through my fair share of trials and tribulations and people talking shit about me and this happening and that happening and me thinking the sky is falling and oh my God, everybody hates me. Social media, online content creation is a bitch. And I know a lot of people think that it is just this wonderful experience of everything is easy and fun and awesome. And it is in a lot of ways. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't change this for the world. But it's stressful. It's stressful and it's not easy. And I know a lot of people think it's easy, but it's not. It's not easy. And I think in a lot of ways, online content creators do more work than a lot of, and I'm going to get shit for this, but a lot of people, a lot of actors do. Like back in the day when, we didn't have the online platform that we have now to project, where I can just turn on a camera and project myself to the world. It's a constant grind. It's a constant grind. It's a constant grind for relevance. It's a constant grind to stay on top of things. And then at the same time, it's a constant grind to keep your passions in check, but then also fuel your passion. There are things that I want to do that make me feel alive. I recently just took in my, I'd say 15 to 20, I'd say close to 20 years of doing what I've been doing. I've never taken a vacation until last week. I went to Switzerland for 10 days. That was the first vacation I ever took. Ever. Like official vacation. I would take like a day or two here and there. But even then, I'm constantly always working. I mean, I got 2 phones and I'm constantly just writing stuff down. I'm never really in the moment. I'm just kind of thinking, oh, I need to talk about that. I need to write this topic in here and so forth and so on. But I love it. And as long as I continue to love it, I think whatever comes, I can kind of deal with getting through it. And I think the same can be said from Lucas. From what I can tell, from my perspective, he loves what he does. And that's kind of all he needs in order to kind of persevere past the point that he's dealing with right now. So, like I said, Lucas is not my friend. He's not an associate. I only talk to him via social media, but I wish him the best. I wish him all the success. I wish all of my brothers in the 2A content space all the success as well. Because the more success we all have, the bigger this community grows and the better protected the Second Amendment is. So that is my take on the whole T.REX Arms Lucas situation. I'm sorry if you didn't get the juiciness of what you thought you might get when you saw this thumbnail and saw the title of the video. But hey, I've just been keeping it real. This is me, and this is how it goes. And I think honestly, this kind of style of podcasting for me is kind of therapeutic. I can just hear myself talk, and we all know how much I love to hear myself talk. So that's going to be another episode of the Colion Noir podcast. Don't forget to check out, don't forget. Oh, yeah. The guys over at Vetter Holsters who sponsor the channel. This is a Vetter holster, by the way, as you can see here. Yeah. Kind of dope. Yeah, I know. Also, don't forget, let's see, my favorite in-ear wireless Bluetooth hearing protection, AKT1 blackouts. I can do a whole video on these. I absolutely love these. These aren't mine. I didn't make these, but I did beta test them for almost a year. And I was intimately connected to just the production of these things. I freaking love them. They were a game changer for me as somebody who enjoys listening to music while he shoots. And also loving having active noise canceling and being able to hear pass-through hearing and so forth and so on. So check these out. Put a link in the description section. And yeah, that's it.